If you ever wonder what people do to keep track of everything that they have to do at work, I started using this task tracker and it's made all the difference. And with this task tracker, it will automatically prioritize the tasks for you based off of their due date, followed by their priority. And you can easily see what status they're in as well as how quickly their due date's coming. We also have a nice little snapshot calendar over to the right, showing exactly when things were due and what's pending. And it's super easy to pivot from one month to the next. All you have to do is click on the first of whatever month you want to look at, and the dates will automatically adjust with you. Adding a task is super easy. All you have to do is add the task. So watch tutorial, for example. Anything that you did not know about at the beginning of the week will be unplanned. If you did know about it at the beginning of the week, it will be planned. Any recurring tasks will be recurring. And then unable to start and follow up are pretty self-explanatory. The task will always start with not started, and then you'll assign a priority. So let's say this one will be a high priority. You can double click on the deadline and select whatever deadline it is. So let's say this one is going to be the 16th of September. If there's a link associated, so a spreadsheet, a report, anything like that, you can link that right there. And then your task focus is fully customizable, and you're able to select what part of your position this task is correlated to. And this is really beneficial to make sure that you're focusing in all the different areas of your job instead of just one. Value add is completely optional, but this is how this task brings value to the company, and this is great for performance reviews as well as dusting off your resume. Notes is for additional context that you want to log, but it's too long to be putting in the task list. And then for completed, whenever a task is marked as done, today's date will appear right there. All recurring tasks are calculated whether or not they need to be added based off of this recurring task list. So all you have to do is just put what day threshold. So for example, daily is going to be added every day, semi-weekly every 3 days, and so forth. The type will always be recurring. You'll put the task list name. The progress will always be not started. Priority will always be recurring. And then for the deadline, we have equals today or equals today plus however many days you need to complete it. So that way it will automatically be updated to whatever day it's being added. If there's a link, all you need to do is add a link, and then whatever task focus it's related to. In column J, it will automatically calculate how many days it's been since the last added date, and if it exceeds the threshold based off of whatever you have right here, it'll be marked as yes. Otherwise, it'll be marked as no. Anything that's marked as yes will automatically be flagged to this To Add tab, and all you need to do is copy it, go to your task list, and then in the next available row, right-click, paste special, values only, or use the hotkeys Command-Shift-V or Control-Shift-V. Once you do that, this will no longer be a formula, this will no longer be a formula, and you have fully editable versions on your task list. If you want to order the priority from top to bottom, you can click on this caret, go to Sort Column A to Z, and you can do that for the deadline and things like that as well. And when you complete different tasks, this completed tracker is going to be increasing by however many you have right here. And this is on top of anything that you have on the Done tab. So for example, if I go to today's date, I have 4 on the Done tab, plus the 2 I just marked, and if I add one more, it will change to 7. At the end of each day, all you have to do is click the caret, go to Sort Columns Z through A, select anything that is there, copy it, go to our Done tab, go to the next available row in column A, and then either right-click, go to Paste Specials, Values Only, or once again use those hotkeys. And if I use the hotkeys, it will automatically be added for me without the formulas. And you don't want the formulas, so that way it doesn't automatically update today's date, for example, to tomorrow every single day. Once you add it, you can simply delete these rows, and now it's completely off your task list as well as your priority list. On the Visualizations tab, we have a breakdown showing exactly how many tasks were completed each week as well as month, and that's broken up by the task focus, the priority, the task type, and whether or not we met the deadline. And lastly, whenever you add a recurring task, you simply need to go back to recurring task and select today's date, and when you do that, it will reset the recurring tasks. Updating each week is super simple. All you have to do is double click on the week start date, change it to the next Monday, and then change any unplanned tasks to planned tasks. I do have an automated version as well. The main difference is that whenever you add a new task, a timestamp will appear under a column called Task Added. Whenever you change it to pending, a timestamp will appear under Task Started, and when you change it to done, a timestamp will appear under Task Completed, and it will automatically move to the next available row in the Done tab, so you don't have to do that yourself. All recurring tasks after they're added the first time will automatically be added instead of having to add those manually. And the calculations will automatically be added as well to flag whenever they're needed. And that happens while you sleep every single night. But other than that, it works the same exact way. So essentially, it's the same exact spreadsheet. The only difference is there's a couple of manual steps that are not present in the other spreadsheet that are in this one. If you do want to see the other spreadsheet, I'm going to link that down in the description below. So if you want to do that tutorial instead, you can check that out. Otherwise, let's dive into the tutorial. All right, so the first thing we want to do is open up a new spreadsheet, and then we're going to rename it whatever you want. So I'm going to rename this as non-automated task tracker tutorial, but you can make it whatever you want. All right, next thing we're going to do is go to Insert, Pre-built Tables, Blank Table, click on Insert, and now we're going to click on row 1, right-click, insert one row above. So now you should have a table, and then we're also going to click on C through F, right-click, insert 4 columns to the right, and now we're good. So now we should have a blank table that starts in cell A2, and then it goes all the way through J. Now we can have a whole bunch more rows, so let's go ahead and add 1,000 more rows at the bottom to extend that table, and now we're good. Up here above A1 where it says Table 1, let's go ahead and change that to Task Tracker. Column 1 will be Type, Column 2, Task List, Column 3, Progress, Column 4, Priority, Column 5, Deadline, Column 6, Link, Column 7, Task Focus, Column 8, Value Add, Column 9, Notes, and Column 10, Completed. Up here in cell B1, we're going to type weekly start date, colon. In cell C1, we're going to go to data, data validation, add rule, use the criteria dropdown to select is valid date, reject the input if the date is not valid, and hit done. So now once you do that, you can double click on that cell and pick whatever date it is. And this should always be the Monday of the week that you're working with. So I'll go ahead and select September 8th. In cell D1, we'll type completed. Let's go ahead and click on this little table. Go to table header colors. You can change this to whatever you want. There's some pre-built options, or you can go to custom and you can select whatever option you want. In this case, I'm just going to select this color. And now we're going to select A1 through E1. Click on the little fill color. Click on the dropper, and then select whatever color you selected. Last thing we'll do is go to text color and change that to white. Now, if you don't like the font, things like that, one thing you can do is go to Format Theme. Then you can select a different theme that you want. And then once you select that theme, you can go to Customize, and you can pick whatever default font you want. So let's say I want Roboto. And if you want to customize the different accent colors as well, you're more than welcome to do that here. And the main purpose of this is for charts, but it also works in some other areas. But this is completely optional. All right, so under chart, we're going to click on this little caret and go to Edit Column Type, and then drop down. Now for this column, it will default to criteria dropdown. That's exactly what we want. Instead of option 1, we're going to type planned, press enter, delete what's there, unplanned, press enter, recurring, enter, unable to start, and then follow up. Let's give it some colors. So you can make this whatever color scheme you want. For planned, I'll put a light green, unplanned, light orange, recurring, light purple, unable to start, black, and follow up, brown. And now I'll hit done. So now once you press done, it will give you each of these options for you to select. Under task list, this is where we'll actually put the task details. So with this, you can do one of two things. One, you can click the drop down, go to edit column type, text, and select text, so it only allows text to be there. But realistically, I leave it blank. That way it could be text, it could be numbers, whatever it is. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. And then in cell B1, let's go ahead and right align this. So we'll click on the alignment and click right. And then let's do the same thing for D1. Let's click on it, click the alignment, click right. And then let's make everything here bold as well. And lastly, let's make it a 12 font, so it's a little bit bigger. Under progress, let's click the caret, go to edit column type, drop down. Then for option 1, we'll delete that and put done. Option 2, delete that, pending, then not started, and next week. And let's give this a color scheme. So I'm going to put green for done. For pending, I'll put yellow, not started, blue, and next week, red. And once again, you can do whatever you want color scheme wise. And we'll hit done. So just like last time, we should be able to click on one of these drop downs and select whatever option we want. For priority, we're going to click the caret, go to edit column type, drop down. Now we're going to delete option 1. And now this formatting is important, so that way all the charts flow through in the right order, the prioritization flows through into the right order, and everything like that. So make sure you do it in this way. So we're going to put a 1 space dash space, and then we'll put the priority. So we'll put recurring. Instead of 2, we'll put 2 space dash space top, 3 space dash space high. Press enter. 4 space dash space medium. 5 space dash space low. 6 space dash space follow up. 7 space dash space unable to start. Let's give it some colors. So I'm going to give a recurring task purple. Top is red. High is blue. medium is orange, low is yellow, follow-up is brown, and unable to start is black. We'll hit done, and just like last time, we should have every single one of these options, and you should be able to click them for them to be added. Now for deadline, since we're in table form, we can add a pop-out calendar a lot easier. So I'm going to click on this caret, go to Edit Column Type, click on Date, and then Date. So now this does the same exact thing essentially that we did right here. The only difference is we don't have to format any of the data validation. You can simply double click on it and pick whatever date you want. For link, we're going to leave that blank. For task focus, we're going to leave this blank for now. Value add, realistically it should only be text. This is where you can put where this task brings value to the company. So click on the caret, go to Edit Column Type, then Text. Notes, same thing, it should really only be text, but you can leave it blank if you want. So we'll click on the caret, Edit Column Type, and then Text. And for notes, since there's limited amount of space for the task list, this is kind of a snapshot of what you need to do for task list, and then any additional notes or context, you can have as many as you want right there. Under completed, we're gonna put this formula. So equals if, open parentheses, C3. This is pointing to C3 because I'm in row 3. I'm in cell J3. If you're in a different row, for whatever reason, it won't say C3, it will say C whatever row you're in. Equals done inside of quotes, comma, today, open parentheses, close parentheses, comma, quote, quote, close parentheses. So with this, it's designed to be blank unless progress is equal to done, and then it's going to put whatever today's date is. I'm filming this on September 11th, so that's why it populates September 11th. If you're filming this on a different day, it's going to say a different date. One thing to note is that this is not a timestamp. Instead, this is a live formula, and we'll get to this a little bit later, but if you have this as done, and you don't copy those over to the Done tab the same day, then it's going to show tomorrow's date as the date that you completed them. You can always adjust those manually, but just a fair warning. All right, so now that we have that formula, we're gonna drag this all the way down to the end of the column. And one pro tip is you can drag it to however long you want. Go ahead and delete the remaining rows. So that way it's in every single row. And now when you add 1,000 more, it will automatically populate all the way down. To make things clean, let's go ahead and select K all the way through AD. And let's delete those. So delete columns K through AD by right-clicking on the column. So now everything is nice and tidy. And you can adjust the width of whatever columns you want by simply clicking on the line in between two columns and adjusting it so it'll be bigger or smaller. Where it says Sheet 1, let's go ahead and right-click, click Rename, and let's rename this as Task List. And that's everything we're going to do for now on this tab. Now I'm going to click on this little plus in the bottom left-hand corner to create a new tab. Let's go ahead and rename this tab as Done. And then we're going to select A2 all the way through J, copy it, and you can either right-click, copy, or just do Command-C. Go to our Done tab. In cell A1, we're going to right-click, paste special, values only. So we only have the names, but we don't have the table formatting. In K1, we'll type Met Deadline. In L1, we'll type Week Start. And then we're going to select M all the way through the end and delete those as well. So delete columns M through Z. Now we're going to select all the different cells. So to make this simple, to the left of A and above 1, I'm going to click on that blank box, and that will select everything. We're going to click on Fill Color, Alternating Colors, and then you can select whatever color you want. I'll select this bluish color and hit Done. So this will give us alternating colors all the way through the end. Now this is kind of hard to read, so I'm going to go ahead and make this a white font for text. And even though I have these alternating colors how I want them, I'm going to make this a little bit darker. So I'm going to click on the fill color and pick this little custom color right here. And like I said before, you can pick whatever you want. Now right now we have Met Deadline and Week Start as the header names, but we're going to get a little bit fancy with this and we're going to embed a formula into these headers. So we're going to type this formula, equals, open curly brace. Make sure that this is a curly brace and not an open parentheses or an open bracket. It needs to be an open curly brace. The original header inside of quotes, so Met Deadline. After the quote, you'll put a comma, array formula, open parentheses, if, open parentheses, is blank, open parentheses, E2 colon E, close parentheses, comma, comma, if, open parentheses, rounds down, open parentheses, E2 colon E, close parentheses, is less than, round down, open parentheses, J2 colon J, close parentheses, comma, inside quotes, the word overdue, comma, inside quotes, the word on time, 3 close parentheses, so 1, 2, 3, and then a closed curly brace. Again, make sure that the last one is a closed curly brace and not a closed parentheses or a closed bracket. And now once I press enter, nothing will happen. The reason why nothing will happen is because there's nothing here. So let's go ahead and type some dates. I'm going to say 9/1/2025 is the deadline. And for completed, let's say 9/11/2025. So since the completed date, which is today, is 9/11/2025, but the deadline was 9/1/2025, met deadline is overdue. If this was a deadline of the 12th, now it's going to say on time because it was completed on the 11th, the deadline's not till the 12th, so we completed it in time. If the deadline is the 11th and the completed is the 11th, then it will still say it's completed on time because you met the deadline. So it's working exactly as we want it to do. And since we have it on an array formula, it will work for every single one of these cells, even if there's no formula in there. So for example, let's go ahead and copy these. I'm going to pick a random row, paste it, and it'll still work the same exact way. Now that I have a date in there, it will recognize that there's a date, so I have a pop-out calendar so I can play around with things a little bit easier. So that's working exactly as we want it to do. Now I'm going to delete these deadlines real quick, and now we're going to embed a formula into week start. So we'll embed this formula equals open curly brace. Once again, make sure it's not an open parentheses or an open bracket. It needs to be an open curly brace. The header week start within quotes. After that quote, we'll put a semicolon, array formula. And you might notice that one has a capital array formula, one has a lowercase. It doesn't really matter as long as it says array formula. Open parentheses, if, open parentheses, is blank, open parentheses, J2:J, close parentheses, comma, comma, round down, open parentheses, J2:J plus 3, minus weekday, open parentheses, J2:J, comma, 16. We'll have 4 closed parentheses, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 closed curly brace. Once again, make sure it's a closed curly brace, not a closed parentheses or a closed bracket. So once you press enter, you should have a number right here or a date, depending on how things are formatted for you. And what this is doing is it's taking this date right here and it's returning the Monday of that week. So if you don't know, every single date is actually a number on the back end, and that's what allows different formula aggregations and calculations and things like that to work. So in order for us to turn it into a date, let's click on all of column L, go to Format, Number, Date. And once we do that, you can see right here we have September 8th, 2025. If we were to double click on this, September 8th, 2025, that's the Monday before the 11th. Now this does allow for a pop-out calendar. If you were to select a different date, you're going to get a reference area here and it's going to break everything after it. So make sure you don't change anything. So if you're going to make any edits, make sure it's not to the week start, but to complete it instead. If you update this manually, it will update the week start based off of this date. Perfect, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this completed because we didn't actually complete anything. But both the met deadline and the week start formulas are live. Now back to the task list, we have this completed counter. And what this is going to do is it's going to look at the Done tab, and it's going to calculate how many tasks have been completed this week. And then it's going to add anything still on this list, but it's marked as done. And the reason why it's configured that way is because if you're in the middle of the day, you might have some things that you've completed that's marked as done that you have not transferred over to the Done tab yet. So we're going to add this formula, equals count ifs, open parentheses. In order to select the range, you'll need to go to the Done tab and select all of column J. If it preloads something like this, just go ahead and delete it, and then select all of column J. So it should read done exclamation point J:J. Then we'll put a comma inside quotes, put greater than or equals to, an ampersand, and then back on the task list, we'll select cell C1. And this is going to be the start date that we're looking up. So that anything that's completed after this start date or during this start date will be included. Then after a comma, we're going to go back to the Done tab, and we'll select all of column J again. And then back to the task list, we'll put a comma, inside quotes, less than or equals to, ampersand, open parentheses, C1, so the start date, plus 7, close parentheses, close parentheses. So what this is saying is on the Done tab, if the completed date is greater than or equal to September 8th, or it's less than or equal to September 8th plus 7 days, then it's going to be counted. Otherwise, it's not. And then we're going to put plus count if, open parentheses, select C3 through C from this list. So C3 through C, and you can just delete the rows to go all the way through C very easily. Comma, inside quotes, the word done, close parentheses. So once you press enter, it should be a 0. If you were to add done to one of these progresses, you should see it populate with a 1. If you don't see it populated with a 1, double check that the date that you have right here is the Monday of the date that you are building this. And then if we go back here, let's go ahead and add a completed date of today. And once we do that, You'll see that populated as 2 because there's something that was completed on the Done tab. And it's within 7 days of the weekly start date. So that's working exactly as we wanted it to. Now we're going to click on Add Sheet in the bottom left-hand corner by clicking on the plus. Let's drag this behind Done by just clicking and dragging. Right-click, rename, and we'll say Recurring. Now we're going to go back to our task list, select Type all the way through Task Focus. So don't include Value Add or anything over to the right. We're going to copy that, and then in the recurring task in row 1, we're going to paste it. Now, unlike last time where we paste values only, we do want to go ahead and include the table. But we need to make some edits. This just kind of helps us with formatting. So we're going to go ahead and insert one column to the left, and we're going to name that Day. For the table name itself, let's go ahead and rename that as Recurring Tasks. So now we have Day, Type, Task List, Progress, Priority, Deadline, Link, Task Focus, and we need 3 more. So I'm going to go ahead and select F through H, insert 3 columns to the right. In I1, we'll put Last Added, J1, Days Since Last, and then in K1, we'll put To Add. Now, if you look right here, we have no alternating colors. It's not actually formatted as a table. So we need to click right here on the caret next to the name, go to Adjust Table Range, and then instead of going through A1 through K1, let's delete the 1 so it goes A1 through K. And now let's hit OK. So now it should look like this. Now the formatting should be the same. So for example, we have all these types already planned out. Progress, we have all of those. So this should save you a lot of time having to recreate those. Deadline, you should already be able to create. Link, so everything's working exactly as we wanted to. Now let's click between L and M and make that kind of small. In cell M1, let's put frequency. And if you're not familiar with the word frequency, that just means how often this task will be added again and again. So we can be able to base this off of different day thresholds. In cell N1, we're going to type day thresholds. And this will make more sense in a second. In M2, let's put daily. M2, semi-weekly. M3, weekly. Below that, semi-monthly, monthly, every 2 months, quarterly, semi-annual, and annual. Then the different day thresholds, this is fully customizable for you, as well as what you actually call these and what you include. You can have more, you can have less, but essentially this is the frequency. So daily, every single day, a task will be prompted to be added. And then for semi-weekly, every 3 days, the task will be prompted to be added, and so forth. So for day thresholds, this is how many days you want to wait for that specific frequency. So for day thresholds for daily, we'll put a 1 because daily, every single day, we should add that task back to our task tracker. Semi-weekly, 3, weekly, 7, semi-monthly, 14, monthly, 30, every 2 months, 60, quarterly, 92, semi-annual, 180, and annual, 365. Now, like I mentioned, you can customize these to however you'd like. So instead of 92, if you want quarterly to be 90, so for example, every 3 months, you can select that. It's entirely up to you. For my purposes, to stay in line with the task tracker that I have live, we're going to put 92. Now I'm going to select all these different options and then go to fill color, alternating colors. And I'm going to make this yellow color. You can make it whatever color scheme you want. We'll select the line between O and P and make this row a little bit smaller as well. And then we're going to select P1 all the way through P20. Go to fill color, alternating colors, and select whatever color scheme you want. I'm going to make it this orange color. In P1, I'll type task focus. And then in cell Q, I'm going to delete everything to the right. So delete Q through AD. Now I'm going to select P1 all the way through P20. Click on this little borders, click outside borders, and then go to border style and make it just a little bit bigger. I'm going to do the same exact thing for M1 through N10. So we already have the format, so all I have to do is click on outer borders, and it will add that thick border. So just to make it a little bit nicer and neater. All right, so task focus, this will be dependent on your exact position. So in my position, I work in revenue operations. So I'm going to go ahead and copy what I have. I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. So I have increased efficiency, improved profitability, enablement, project completion, special project, hygiene, tool configuration, reporting, and troubleshooting. So these are all different types of tasks where my focus would be for my position. But essentially what you're trying to accomplish with this is what part of your job description does this task affiliate with? And what this will do is it will make sure that you're focusing in the right areas instead of focusing on one part of your job while neglecting other parts. All right, so now that we have task focus, we can go here to task focus, go to edit column type, drop down. And then now this time, instead of adding it manually, we're going to click criteria drop down from a range, click on the 4 little boxes, click into this range, and then we're going to select P2 through P20. You don't want to include P1 because if you do, it will include task focus in the drop-down list. We don't want that, that's a header. So that's why we're doing P2 through P20. If you have more than 20 that you have listed, you'll need to adjust this range to go all the way through wherever you have. We'll hit OK, and now everything's good. If you want to, you could apply different colors. I personally don't, just because it's a task focus. We don't really need colors, and I want to be able to change it and add things without having to format it each time. I'll hit done. So now everything is good to go. On the task list, we're going to do the same thing. So under task focus, we're going to drop down, edit column type, drop down. In the criteria drop down, select drop down from a range. Select the 4 little boxes, click into the selected data range pop out, go to recurring, delete whatever populates if it does. We're going to select P2 through P20, hit OK. If you added color, you can add those again, otherwise leave it blank. So now on both the task list and the recurring task focus is complete. Now the reason to add these on a list instead of adding these manually is because you can add whatever you want later on, and then it will automatically populate on this one and on the task list. So it's just a shortcut to be able to adjust the task focus up and down as you see fit. All right, under day, we're going to use the drop down. Select edit column type, drop down. Same thing as last time, criteria drop down from a range. Click the 4 little boxes, click into selected data range, and we're going to select all of our frequencies, so M2 through M10, and hit OK. Now for this one is a bit more stagnant than task focus, so I'm going to go ahead and add some color. So for daily, I'm going to put brown, semi-weekly, light orange, weekly, this little brownish black color, semi-monthly, yellow, monthly, green. I'm just kind of going down the line. Every 2 months, light green, quarterly, blue, semi-annual, light blue, annual, this cyan color. And once again, you can put whatever color scheme you want. We'll hit done, and now we have a single drop down with every option that we have in the frequency. If you were to change this, so for example, instead of semi-weekly, you change this to bi-weekly, it will automatically update over here. All you need to do is click on the pencil and then update the color to whatever it was. So we'll say orange, hit done, and it will work just the same. Under last added, we want this to be a date. So we're going to click on edit column type, date, date. So now you have that option to have it pop out calendar, select the date instead of having to type it in manually. In J2 under days since last add, we're going to add this formula. So equals if, open parentheses, is blank, open parentheses, I2. And once again, this is in J2, that's why it's referencing I2. Close parentheses, comma, comma, max, open parentheses, 0, comma, round up, open parentheses, today, open parentheses, close parentheses, minus I2, 3, close parentheses. So 1, 2, 3. And once you press enter, it'll be blank. If you double click on last added and add a date, so let's say September 9th, for example, you should see the number of days between whatever date you have selected and today's date. And since we're going based off of today, every single day is going to update dynamically. So tomorrow, it will update to 3. Or if it's in the past, so for example, if it's Monday, it will update to 3 as well. Now, one thing to note about this is there is no array formula, and that's because we're doing a calculation based off of today. So as you add additional recurring tasks, you need to drag this one down manually, but it's going to be blank until something is there. So you can either drag it down manually, or you can go ahead and drag it down to the end of the column, or however far you want to go ahead of time. Now, I don't have 50 recurring tasks, so I'm going to go ahead and click on 54 and go all the way through 1,000. Delete those rows just to make sure that we limit the amount of cells that are on this spreadsheet to speed things up and keep things clean. So in K2, we're going to type this formula. Now in this formula that's different than the live template version that I have is I went ahead and excluded the blocker to not add on weekends. Reason why is because if you're not working, since we're adding this manually, you're not going to be able to add it manually because you're not working. So we don't need that blocker anymore like we do for the automated task tracker. So it's a little bit more of a simplified version, but it will still work. So we're going to type equals array formula, open parentheses, if, open parentheses, is blank, open parentheses, I2 colon I, close parentheses, comma, comma, if, open parentheses, J2 colon J minus X lookup, open parentheses, A2 colon A, comma, M colon M, comma, N colon N, comma, close parentheses, is greater than or equal to 0, comma, inside quotes the word yes, comma, inside quotes the word no, then 3 close parentheses. So once you press enter, you'll see that it says yes, and that's because we have something here, and the day since last is 3, and since there's no frequency selected, it's going based off of nothing, so that's why it's adding yes. Now, where this matters is for the day. So for example, if I were to select daily, it will be yes, and that's because the days since the last time it was added is 3, and 3 is greater than or equal to 1. So since there's been more days since the last time it was added than the number of days for the threshold, it's going to flag as yes. Now if I were to change this to semi-weekly, it will still be yes. And the reason why is because 3 is greater than or equal to 3. If I were to change this to a 2, it will say yes again. If I change this to a 4, it will say no, because now 3 is no longer meeting that threshold. So similarly, if I were to change this to weekly, it's going to say no, because 3 is not greater than or equal to 7. So that's where the frequency comes into play, and it will flag what is eligible to be added and what's not eligible to be added based off of the last added date and the date calculation since the last added date to today. Perfect. Now you might be wondering why we embedded the formulas into the headers on the Done tab, but we didn't embed the formulas into the header here. For this one, we can't use an array formula. That's one big reason why. We need to have the ability to add a single formula referencing each one. For this one, we can use an array formula, but since we're using a table, you can't embed a formula into a table header. And that's because tables are kind of brand new, so we're restricted. But we can add it to row 2 just the same. Now you do have the ability to create different custom views if you have a whole bunch of recurring tasks that you want to filter through. I don't know why you would, but in case you do want to create views, just make sure that every single one of these ranges is anchored in with $signs, otherwise it's going to change. And if that doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about it. All right, so I just went ahead and put some dummy data in there, but realistically what you're going to do is you're going to put whatever threshold it is. So daily, it will always be recurring, wherever the task is. So we'll put update report, for example. The task will always start with not started. The priority will always be recurring. For the deadline, I recommend putting equals today, open parentheses, close parentheses. And when you do that, it will give you today's date for every single time. But since it's a formula, it will automatically update today, whatever date it is. If you want to add a buffer, for example, it takes me more than just today to do a board deck, you can put plus and then whatever it is, so let's say 7. So now the deadline is going to be 7 days after whatever day it is when the task is added. So that's just a pro tip to be able to make it dynamic and minimize your workload. Task focus, let's go ahead and put reporting, for example, but you'll put whatever it is. And if you want to adjust the width of these, you can make it however big or small you want. Now just for visual separation, since this is technically part of the task list, this is not, let's go ahead and click on I, click on borders, click on left, and then let's make it a little bit smaller, but you can kind of see that this is kind of a separate section than this is. Now for last added, you need to always add a last added date, and you need to base this based off of how early you want this to be added. So if you're adding this here and you're adding this to your task list right away, you can simply double click, put whatever your today's date is, and then it will be no until it gets to the threshold again, and then it will be added. If you want to strategically add it on a specific date, so for example, let's say that we want this to be added tomorrow on the 12th, you can go back to whatever date it is, and then let's go ahead and select the 12th. You can see right here, it's 30. And that's because we have it set to monthly and 30 days is greater than or equal to 30. So let's go ahead and update this to the 13th. And now you can see that the day since last is 29 and it says no. But tomorrow when I log in, now we'll have 30 days since the last time it was added and this will be marked as yes. So you can kind of strategically plan how you want it to be. You only really need to do this the first time. And that's because going forward, whenever you add it, you'll double click and put today's date anyways. So it will always be reflected in reality as opposed to just planning where you want it to be. Now just to easily identify which ones need to be updated and which ones don't, we're going to click on all of column I, go to Format, Conditional Formatting, Format Cells If, scroll down to the very bottom and put Custom Formula Is. We're going to put equals K1, equals, inside quotes, the word yes. And make sure that the yes is the same punctuation, spelling, capitalization, all that stuff as right here. And then the other thing to note is make sure that the row right here matches the row right here. So if you were to start in I2, for example, instead of I1, you would need to put K2 instead of K1. Otherwise, everything is going to be shifted based off of the gap. So let's make this a orange color and hit done. So now what this is going to do is it's going to look up the value in K, and then it's going to format it if it's yes, and if it's not yes, it's going to be no. So for example, if we were to go back to the 12th, you'll see this now is orange, and that's because this is now yes. If I were to change this back to the 13th, it's now no. All right, so let's go ahead and just add some random dates in here. Cool, so right now we have 2 yeses, and let's go ahead and add this one to the 12th, so we have 3 yeses. So now the recurring task is done, and we're going to create a task that will isolate anything that needs to be added on the task list. So in the bottom left-hand corner, we're gonna click on the plus to add a sheet. We're gonna rename this as to add, and then in cell A1 of the to add tab, paste this formula. So it's going to be equals filter, open parentheses, from the recurring tab, so similar to last time. You're going to go to the recurring tab. If anything populates, go ahead and delete that. And we want to have columns B through H, and B through H only, and that's because those are the only ones that matter for the task list. So that's good. We'll put a comma, same as last time for recurring K. We're going to select all of column K. So recurring exclamation point K to K equals yes. So what this is going to do is it's going to look for column K and see if it says yes or no. If it says yes, then it's going to return anything in that row between columns B through H to this list. All right, so now I have everything in column B through H where we need to add it to the task list. So to add it to the task list, all you're going to do is copy it. So you can either right click and click copy, or you can just hit Command C or Control C. Go to our task list, and now this is super, super important. If I were to paste this, that formula is going to be there. We don't want that formula there because that's going to shift depending on what's happening. So instead, we want to right click, paste special, values only. And once you do that, it's going to be a fixed amount. The deadline's also going to be fixed, and we can update this as we see fit. We can move these around, whatever the case is. So everything's good to go. But once again, make sure that you right click, paste specials, values only. You can also hit Command-Shift-V or Control-Shift-V, and that will be the hotkeys to be able to paste them without having to go the long way. All right, so that's all good to go now. So once you paste it to your task list, just go back to your recurring task and simply double click and add today's date. And once you do that, everything will be reset for next time. So now it will automatically count how many days it's been since the last time it's been added. And then once it exceeds that threshold, it will flag it as yes. When it's flagged as yes, it'll be added to this To Add tab. And then you'll go through the cycle again. Just to differentiate between the task list and the recurring tab, I'm going to change this color of the recurring tab to be a different color. So you can click on the caret next to the name, go to Table Header Color, and then whatever color you want it. So I'm going to make it this red color. And now recurring task is done. I'm going to click on Add Another Sheet by clicking on the plus in the bottom left-hand corner. Drag that to the end, right-click on the name, and we're going to rename this as Combined List. Now another way to add a table is to go select the columns that you want, go to Format, Convert to Table, and now you have a table with those columns. All we need is columns A through H, so I'm going to click on column I, select everything to the right, and then I'll delete columns I through Z. For the name of the table, I'm going to put Combined. And then let's make this color a little bit different. I'll make it this kind of grayish color. And just so you know, this is going to be a hidden tab that's more of a flow through. So you don't need to make it look pretty if you don't want to. In A1, we'll put type, B1, task list, progress/status, priority, deadline, link, task, focus. And then in cell H1, we're going to put task summary. And let's make this one a little bit bigger. We don't really need to have any formatting for these because, once again, they're just kind of a flow through. And then in cell A2, we're going to type this formula. So we'll type equals query, open parentheses, vstack, open parentheses. On the task list, we're going to select A3. If anything populates, just delete it. We're going to select A3 through G. If you can't get to A3 because of the way that the formula is covering it up, you can select A4 and then go all the way through G, which is the task focus. And then inside the range, let's go ahead and delete the rows so it goes all the way through G, and then change the 4 to a 3. So now you have A3 through G. We'll put a comma, and then the same thing for done. We're going to go to our Done tab, and then select A2 all the way through G. Delete the row so it goes all the way through G. Put a close parentheses, then put a comma. We'll put a quote, select space asterisk or star, space where, space capital C, in the word call, so call to with a capital C, space is, space not, space null, quote, close parentheses. So once we press enter, we'll have anything that's on our task list, and we're going to have anything that's on our task list stacked on top of anything on our done tab. So nothing is on our done tab right now, but let's say I went ahead and added something. Let's go ahead and add something. So we'll paste that, and then let's change it to deadline of the second, whatever. We'll put it as done. And for the completed date, we'll put the second as well. Cool, so now everything's good to go there. If I go back to my combined list, you'll see that all of the different tasks on the task list are stacked on top of anything that's on the done tab. So now that's good. Don't know why this added, so let's go ahead and delete everything in column I over through T. Delete, cool. Now for the task summary, we're going to add this formula. But what this is going to do is it's going to take the task details, then we'll put a dash. We'll put the priority without the little number in dash. we'll put a dash, and then we'll put the progress/status. And this right here is what's going to populate inside of your calendar snapshot. So inside H2, the formula is going to be equals array formula, open parentheses, if open parentheses is blank, open parentheses C2:C, close parentheses, comma, comma, B2:B, ampersand, which is the and symbol, quote, space, dash, space, quote, ampersand, open parentheses, index, open parentheses, split, open parentheses, D2:D, comma, quote, space, quote, close parentheses, comma, 1, comma, 3, close parentheses, ampersand, quote, space, dash, space, quote, ampersand, C2:C, close parentheses, close parentheses. All right, once you have that, you should be able to press enter and see everything populate. If column C is blank, then it's going to be blank. Otherwise, you should have a result. And it should say whatever the priority is without the number and the dash. And then it should follow with the progress/status. So everything's good here. All right, so that's all we need right there. So let's go ahead and press plus to add another sheet. Let's drag that one to the very front, and we'll rename that as dashboard. I'm going to select A1 through F3, click on this little merge cells button, and then I'm going to put this formula. So to add the columns, it's just like we did before. Go to the task list, select B3 all the way through B. I'm not going to go through it in detail since you already should be familiar with adding the different columns on different tabs by now. But if, open parentheses, count ifs, make sure that S is in there, open parentheses, from the task list, B3 through B, so B3 through B, comma, inside quotes, and asterisk. And then from the task list, C3 through C, comma, inside quotes, less than, greater than, done, in the quote, in the parentheses, equals 1. So what this is saying is that if anything exists in column B, then it wants you to look at the task list. And if the status is not done, then it's going to count everything that's there. And if that number is equal to 1, then it's going to continue. If it's not equal to 1, it's going to skip this next part, then it's going to return this part instead. And basically, this formula is the same exact thing, and the only difference is grammar. This will make more sense in a minute. So after that 1, we'll put a comma. So inside quotes, you're going to have you have space quote ampersand. To make things simple, let's go ahead and copy this portion right here. So count ifs all the way through the end quote. Copy that, and then you can paste it right here. So it's the same exact thing. Ampersand, quote, space, task pending. In the quote, put a comma. So if there's only one, it's going to say you have one task pending. So that's really the only difference between the two. Now what we're going to do right here is copy this entire section, and we're going to paste it, close it out. Then instead of task, it's going to say tasks. Press enter. So however many tasks you have on this list that do not have the progress as done, you should see you have whatever number that is, tasks pending. If you only have one, it should say you have one task pending. So that's it. So it's just a nice little summary of what you have. And then if you change the progress to done, you should see that it reduces by 1. So it's only your active tasks that are pending. All right, now let's give this some color and some life. So let's center it, and then let's vertically align it to the center as well. Let's make it have a tan background. Let's change the font size to 20. And then if you want to resize things, you can. It's entirely up to you. And then let's go to borders, outside border, make it have a little bit thicker of a border. So now everything's good. For column G, let's make that a little bit smaller. In row 5, between A and F, let's merge those together. And then in A through F, let's go down through 44. Let's give this in all borders, make it smaller. Then give it an outside border and make it a little bit bigger. And then let's also select the insides of that table, go to fill color, alternating colors, and let's give it a color. So I'm going to give it this blue color and hit done. Now I want this to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to select A6 through F6, click on the fill handle, and then make it a darker blue color. And then the merge cell in C, I'm going to click the little dropper for pick a custom color and select the same color that we have right here. And for both of those, let's make the text white. All right, so in that merge cell, we're going to type pending tasks. In A6, we'll put type, B6 task, C6 status, D6 priority, E6 date, and F6 due in. For this pending tasks cell, let's go ahead and center that and make it vertically aligned in the middle as well. And let's make it slightly bigger, so let's say 13. Cool, so now it's coming together. All right, so in cell A7, we're going to type equals array underscore constrain, open parentheses, vstack, open parentheses, query, open parentheses, from the task list, we're going to select A3 through I. So task list, if it populates anything, delete there, select A3 all the way through I, which is through the notes, and then make it go through the end of the entire spreadsheet. And we want to anchor that in with dollar signs so it doesn't change, so A3 through I, comma, inside quotes, select A, B, C, D, E, where E is not null and C is not equal to a soft quote, done, in the soft quote, space, order by E, comma, D in the quote. Put a comma, 0, close parentheses. Then we'll put a comma, query, open parentheses, that same task list A3 through I, and make sure those are anchored in with dollar signs, comma, quote, select, space, A, comma, B, comma, C, comma, D, comma, E, where E is null, and B is not null, and C is not equal to, inside soft quotes, done, space, order by E, comma, D, quote, comma, 0, close parentheses, comma, 39, comma, 5. All right, so this is a super advanced formula. You don't need to understand what it does as long as it works. But essentially what we're doing is we are querying the task list. So we're looking to see where the deadline is not null, meaning that it's not blank. So if there's a deadline and column C is not equal to done, then we're going to return it. And we're going to order it by E, so the deadline first, and then by the priority D, so E and D. The comma 0 is saying that it does not have a header, and that's it. And then we're going to query that same exact list, and we're going to return column A, B, C, D, and E, just like we did before. But this time we're going to look to see where E is null, so there is no deadline, and B is not null, meaning that there's a task list present, and C is not equal to done. And then once again, we're going to order by E first, so the deadline first, and then we're going to order by the priority after that. Now the VStack is we're going to stack this query on top of this query, so they're right on top of each other. So anything that has a deadline is first, anything that doesn't have a deadline is second. And then the array constraint constrains it, so it's only going to be 39 rows long and 5 columns wide. And that's the size of our table right here. Now you might notice that there's an NA. That's because every single one of our options has a deadline. So if I were to remove one of the deadlines, now that NA goes away. Now we have the tasks with a deadline stacked on top of the one without a deadline. You might also notice that there's 2 instead of 3, and that's because this one right here is marked as done. If we were to mark this as pending, for example, it's going to be shown on this list now. Now let's say you want to have a deadline for every single one of your tasks, but you don't want to see that NA. You can go to the very front, type if error, open parentheses, after the formula, put a comma, close parentheses, and press enter. And once you do that, you can double click, put whatever date you want, and you won't have that NA error. Now for some reason this changed to number form. If that happens, simply select the range, go to format, number, date, and now you'll have that date again. Now one thing to know is that this is not customizable. All this is a flow through to organize and prioritize for you. So you can't make any edits. If I were to try to change this to a 12, it's going to break because you can't do that. Now right now it doesn't make much sense because the priority is all 1, but let's go ahead and play around with this. So let's say that we want a high right here, we have a top right here, and we have a medium right here. Now on the task list, we have medium at the very top with a deadline of September 11th. Second priority is a high with a deadline of September 11th. And then last, we have a priority as top with a deadline of September 10th. Now the prioritization of this is completely out of whack. But if you remember, on our dashboard, it's going to sort by the date first, then it will sort by the priority. So if I go to my dashboard, you can see right here we have September 10th top, and that's because that date is closest in the future. And then we have 2 tasks that have a deadline of September 11th. But instead of the medium being on top, now it's sorting by the priority. So the high is on top and the medium is second. So everything's working exactly as we want it to. Just to keep things nice and tidy, I'm going to go ahead and change these back to 1 since they're all recurring tasks. And now we're good. Now inside the do in header, we're going to add a formula. So we'll type equals open curly brace. Once again, make sure it's an open curly brace instead of an open parentheses or an open bracket. The header name inside of quotes, so do in. We'll put a semicolon, array formula, open parentheses. If open parentheses is blank, open parentheses, B7 colon B, close parentheses, comma, comma. If open parentheses is blank, open parentheses, E7 colon E, close parentheses, comma, the word open inside of quotes, comma, E7 colon E minus today, open parentheses, 4 close parentheses, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a closed curly brace. Once again, closed curly brace, not close parentheses, not close bracket. And once you press enter, you should have two things happening. It will depend on what your dates are and how things are formatted. So the first thing is if there's a date present, it's going to calculate how many days it's been or how many days until the date that's listed. So I'm filming this on September 11th. The due date was on September 10th. So it's been -1 days, AKA it was yesterday. And that also means it's overdue. Now today is September 11th. Our date is September 11th. So we have 0 days until it's due. If I were to go back to my task list and let's say I change this to the 19th, I delete this one, change this to the 12th, it will update automatically. So now instead of being -1, this one right here is the 12th. So we have 1 day until it's due. This one we have 8 days until it's due. And since this one doesn't have a deadline listed, now it's due in open. So that just means that there is no deadline. Perfect, so now everything is working exactly as we want it to. All right, so I'm gonna go down here to row 46, go to the end of the column, and we're gonna delete that. And then we're gonna add some formatting. So I'm gonna select C7 all the way through the end of the table, not including that last column. Go to Format, Conditional Formatting. Under Format Cells If, we're gonna say text is exactly. We're gonna put pending, and I'm gonna make it this yellow color. I'll make the font white, and then we're good. So now you can see that pending is highlighted in this yellow color with the white font. Now to duplicate this rule without having to reconfigure everything, I can click Add Another Rule, and we're gonna say Not Started. And I'm gonna change the yellow to a blue color, add another rule, next week, and I'll change this to a red color and strike it out. So if that were to read next week, you'll see it red and strike out. Now we'll hit done. For recurring, we're gonna do the same exact thing. So we'll select D7 through D44. If you still have conditional format rules up, you can click Add Another Rule. If you don't, go to Format, Conditional Formatting. And this time we're gonna say Text Contains. And even though technically there's more to it, we're gonna take a little bit of a shortcut here. So if the text contains a 1, AKA it has a 1 right here at the very beginning, then we want it to be a purple color with white font, just like that. Now we can click Add Another Rule to duplicate it, put 2, and we're gonna make it have a red color. Add another rule, 3, and we're kind of making it have a similar color scheme to what it has on the task list, just to keep things consistent. So if it has a 3, we're gonna make it have a blue color. Add another rule, 4, which is medium, in case you're wondering, make it have this orange color. 5, which is low, make it have this yellow color. And if the shade is too light, you can always change the font to be a black color instead. Add another rule, 6, we're gonna make this have that brown color for follow-up, and we'll change the font to white. Add another rule, change that to 7, and this will be unable to start, and we'll change that to black. And now we can hit done. So now if I were to go here and click some other options, we'll say top, follow-up, medium, it will update accordingly with those colors. So everything is great. Now I'm gonna select F7 through F44. Click Add Another Rule. Once again, if you exited out of it, just go to Format, Conditional Formatting. And this time I'm gonna put value is less than 0. And I'm gonna make it this kind of dark red color with white. So if this number is less than 0, then the background is gonna be really red with the white text. We'll click Add Another Rule. If the value is equal to 0, then we'll have this kind of yellow color warning you that it's going to be today. And then add another rule. We'll select is between, and we'll say 0 and 5. So if it's between 0 and 5, you can see that the 1 is already getting formatted. Then I'm not gonna have a fill color, so it's gonna be blank, but I am gonna change the text color to be kind of this orange color and make it bold. I'll click Add Another Rule, and we'll say between 5 and 14. I'm gonna make it this dark green color, and then click Add Another Rule, and then anything greater than 14 will just be black, and hit done. So now you can see that everything is formatted just as we want. Open is still going to be open. If you want to format that as something, you're more than welcome to. Similar format, you understand conditional formatting by now. But that's just a visual representation to show what's happening. So if I were to exit out of this, go to our task list, and I'm gonna change something to the past. I'm gonna change something to today, and then let's say the 26th. Now you can see that anything that's in the past has that red color, anything that's today has that yellow color, and then it will conditional format from there. All right, so if I sound a little bit differently, that's because I'm filming the next day now. And since I'm filming the next day, today is now September 12th instead of September 11th. So now instead of this saying 0, it says -1. So it's working exactly as we planned. Now the next thing we're going to do is create our snapshot calendar. So I'm gonna select cells H1 through N1. I'm gonna merge those together. And then we'll go to Data, Data Validation, Add Rule. And under the Criteria dropdown, we'll select Is Valid Date. Reject the input if there's not a date, and hit Done. and then I'll exit out of that. So with this, we want to select the first of the month that we're working with. In this case, it's September 1st. And this is super important that you always want to select the first of whatever month you're trying to show on the calendar. Otherwise, the formatting will be off. In H2, I'm going to put the days of the week. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And if you work Monday through Sunday instead, you can edit that. You'll just need to add 1 to the formula. In cell H1, we're going to put this formula. So it's equals EO month, open parentheses, H1, comma, -1, minus weekday, open parentheses, H1, comma, 3, close parentheses. So once again, if you were adding this on the Monday, you'll just need to add 1. So at the end, put +1, and that will give you the Monday instead of the Sunday. Now everything right here is super simple. We'll type equals this date +1, and then we're going to drag this over to the rest of these. All right, so what this is going to do is it's going to look up this date, and it's going to extract the Sunday before that date. So for example, this one right here is September 1st. If we were to look at the Sunday before September 1st, that's the 31st. If I were to select August 1st, the Sunday before August 1st is July 27th. So everything's working exactly as planned. All right, so each of our calendar dates is going to have 6 rows where it can put different tasks. Anything more than 6, it's not going to fit. It'll just be too long. So that's why we're doing it this way. So I'm going to select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to put an outside border around those. I'm going to select all 6 of those, drag those over to the right, and now we have a little calendar that's popping up. I'm going to select all the dates plus those boxes, copy it, paste it beneath. This one's going to give us a number error because we have a formula that's not going to work right here. But in H10, we're going to type equals and then select the Saturday of the previous week. And now everything's going to work again. Now, before we go any farther, let's go ahead and fix some of this formatting. I don't want to see the full date. I don't want to see the full date right here. So I'm going to select cell H1, then go to Format, Number, Custom Date and Time. And I'm going to delete everything right here, delete, delete, and then click on this little arrows next to the month, and I'll say month as a full name, and I'll hit apply. So now, even though we still have the date on the back end, which is August 1st, it's being formatted as just the word August to make things nice and clean. Let's go ahead and center this. Let's make it center aligned as well. And let's change this to font 18 just to make it a little bit bigger. Cool. For H3, let's go ahead and format this. So we'll go to Format, Number Format, Custom Date and Time. And this time we want to have just a 2-digit day. So we'll click on this caret, then click on day, and say day with a leading 0. And we'll hit apply. So now it has 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 1, 2, and so forth. Now it looks like right here, I just put equals this, and it's not equals that Saturday +1, so I need to adjust that. So now everything's looking good. All right, just to give this portion a formatting, let's go ahead and select August through the 2nd, or whatever first Saturday you have, and we'll select all borders. And that gives nice little borders there. Then let's give all borders right here as well. Perfect. So now we can simply copy this week, paste it beneath, paste it beneath, paste it beneath, and paste it beneath. So at the end of the day, you want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And you might be wondering why you need 6 weeks if there's only 4 weeks in the month. You can see that right here. So we have the first week of August right here. We have 4 full weeks of August, and then we have 1 day of August right here. So some months only require a few weeks. Some months require 6 weeks to fit all the different dates in. Perfect. Now we're going to make column O a bit smaller to kind of match the theme that we're doing right here. Click on P, go to the right, and delete columns P through Z. All right, so now we're going to click on H through N, go to Format, Conditional Formatting, and we're going to add some formatting. So the order of this does matter, so make sure you're doing it in the same order that I am. So we're going to say Format Cells If is empty. We're going to leave it blank and none. We're going to add another rule. If the date is today, then we're going to format it with this kind of orange color with a white font. And for the color scheme, you can do whatever color scheme you want. Just the conditional formatting themselves have to be in the order that we put them here. So you can see right here, nothing is happening, and that's because today is in September. So if I double click on this, change it to September 1st, you'll see that now we have September 12th visible and it's formatted because that's today's date. We'll click add another rule, and we're going to say custom formula is, and we're going to type this formula. So equals month, open parentheses, $H, $1, close parentheses, equals month, open parentheses, H1, close parentheses. So the first H1 needs to have the $ signs in there. The second H1 should not have the $sign in there. And also, since we're starting with H1 and H1, make sure that you have this starting with H1 as well. Now let's format this a little bit differently so you can put whatever you want. I'll put this kind of green color and make it a white font. Everything's good to go there. I'm going to make it bold as well. So if you did this correctly, you should see that anything that's in the month of the month that you selected is whatever color you have. If it's not, so for example, this one right here is 31, this one right here is the next month, those should not be formatted. And the only exception would be today's date, and that's because we have today's date listed first, and then we have this one. If you don't see today's date highlighted, that means that you did things in the wrong order, and today's date conditional format needs to be higher on the list than this one. We'll click add another rule and say text contains the word done. Then let's make this no fill color, and we'll have a gray text, and let's italicize it. We'll do another rule. This time will be pending. Let's get rid of the bolds. Let's change this to an orange color, and we'll hit done. Now I don't want this done to actually contain a bold, so we'll get rid of that. So we're good. So it should say cell is empty with no formatting. Date is today with formatting for whatever you want that date to be highlighted with. That formula, and once again, make sure that it's H1 with $signs first, then H1 without $signs second. And then it will be text contains done, and then text contains pending. So everything's good to go there. So now the format's starting to come together. Let's go ahead and make the days the same color as everything else. So let's click on fill color, and then you can change it to the same color. And then let's change the text to be white, and let's make that bold. Now let's go ahead and format anything that's not in the current month. So I'm going to select right here. We'll click on the fill color. Let's have this kind of light gray background, and we'll make the font kind of this darker gray. And we'll make that bold to be similar to the other ones. Now you might notice that even though we selected the entire week, it only formatted the day that's not in this month. And that's because conditional formatting has more priority over anything that you add manually. So the conditional formatting will always win. But if I were to double click, go back to August, you'll see that it's still formatted on the back end. All right, so I'm going to select all of that week that I just formatted, click on the paint format, and I'm just going to paint every single week that's there. That way, if something changes, if things shift, then it's still formatted on the back end, so it won't look goofy. And realistically, yes, these ones right here will probably never shift, but just to keep things consistent. Perfect, so now we're looking like a proper calendar. The next thing I'm going to do is go to View, Show, Grid Lines. So now we removed all those different grid lines, and we just have kind of blank boxes, so it looks like a calendar. Now I'm going to select all of column G, go to Fill Color, make it this kind of light gray background, select the little gap in row 4, make it this light gray background, all of column O, light gray background, and then all of 45, light gray background. So cool, so now we have a little calendar right here, and if you want to make things a little bit bigger, you can. So you can select all of the columns, then make it a little bit bigger, and you'll see everything stretch. So you can play around with it to whatever fits best on your screen. All right, before we continue with the calendar, let's go to our task list and add a bunch of different done tabs. And we want to include various deadlines in the recent past, and we'll mark them all as done. If you have them mixed in with anything that's not started, you can click on this little arrow right here, go to sort column, Z to A, and now everything will be at the bottom. And then we're going to select everything all the way through the completed, hit cut, go to done, then you're going to right click, paste specials, values only. So you can see right here, all the met deadlines and week starts automatically populated, and everything's looking good. Now if I go back to my task list, we can go ahead and delete anything that says done. We don't need that anymore. And now if we look at the combined list, we have all of our tasks that are still pending stacked on top of anything that's done. And we're going to use this combined list, extract this task summary, and we're going to import that into whatever date that deadline falls on. So one thing to note is that if there is no deadline, it's not going to show up in the snapshot calendar. Only tasks that have a deadline will show up. So in cell H4, we're going to add this formula. So it will be equals array underscore constrain, open parentheses, if error, open parentheses, filter, open parentheses. From the combined list, just like we have before, we're going to select all of column H. So combined list, all of column H. And then we'll put a comma. From the combined list, we want to have all of column E. So we'll go ahead and select all of column E. And we're going to anchor those in with $signs, so that way they do not shift. And then we're going to put equals H3. And H3 is from this dashboard, which points to this cell right here that contains the date. And we don't want to anchor that in because we do want that to shift. We'll put a close parentheses, comma, quote, quote, close parentheses, comma, 6, comma, 1, close parentheses. So what this is saying, it's going to filter this list right here when this list right here for the deadline is equal to this date. Then it's going to cap it at 6 rows deep and 1 column wide. So that way, if it exceeds 6, but we only have 6 rows, it's not going to give us this NA error. It's just going to stop. But since we're stacking anything that's still pending on top of anything that's done, anything that's pending and important will show up on top. And another thing you'll notice is that these are grayed out and they're italicized. And that's because of that conditional formatting that we just added. Now I'm going to select all of these and go to text wrapping, clip, so that way it doesn't bleed into the next row. So now if you want to see it, you can simply click on it right there. In this top one, you'll see the formula. If you need to see it, you can always expand and collapse. And now we're going to select all the different boxes and then use the fill handle to drag this over to the right. And now we have every single task that has been completed or is pending or is not started. You can see right here, we have September 3rd. This one's correlated with this one. It's still pending due to our formatting. Now it's showing as orange. So everything's working exactly as we want. Now I'm going to copy this, go to H11 and paste it, go to H18, paste it, H25, paste it, H32, paste it, and H39, paste it. So now everything's all set up for next time. Now this is dynamic, so if I were to click right here and go to August, for example, it's only going to show items that have an August deadline. So you can see right here, we have all the different ones that have an August deadline. In next month, it shows everything that's for next month, but it's dynamic, so it's not editable or anything like that. But it's a nice little snapshot. Cool, so now we're all done with the dashboard and we need to set up some visualizations and pivot tables. So we're going to click on Add Sheet in the bottom left-hand corner. We'll drag that to the very end. We'll right click on this and rename that as Visualizations Worksheet. In cell A1, we're going to add a date. So we'll go to Data, Data Validation, Add Rule. Use the criteria drop down to select Is Valid Date. Reject the input if it's not a valid date and hit Done. So we're adding a date here, that way we can add it as a minimum filter for what we want to show on our pivot tables and our visualizations. After a while, your charts start to get kind of cluttered. So instead of having to go in and increase the filter date based off of each individual pivot table, each pivot table is going to point to this, so that way we can update it one time. I recommend going back about 6 months to start, and then you can kind of go from there. All right, so the first pivot table we're going to do, we're going to go to the Done tab, and we'll always be working off this Done tab. Go to Insert, Pivot Table, and then we're going to say Existing Sheet. And if you don't have this right here, that's because I have Gemini embedded into my workspace. If you don't have Gemini, you won't need that. So don't worry about that. We don't need it for this project. So we're going to go to Existing Sheet, click the 4 little boxes, click right here, go to Visualizations Worksheet, and we're going to click on A3 and hit OK. And then we'll hit Create. Now the first one we're going to add is the task focus on the week level. So for rows, I'm going to put task focus. For columns, I'm going to put week start. For values, I'm going to put task list. And then under filters, I'm going to put completed. Click the drop down, filter by condition, equals, and we'll say value is greater than or equal to equals A1. And we'll hit OK. So now it's only going to show tasks where the completed date is greater than or equal to whatever date you put right here. So I'm going to go ahead and select September 1st, for example. If I select September 1st, now anything in August is no longer going to be there. In this case, I want to include everything that's too short of a timeline. So I'm just going to go back, we'll say April. Now I'm going to uncheck Task Focus Show Totals and uncheck Week Start Show Totals. So now everything's good to go there. Now, depending on how many task focus you have, and remember the task focus is this recurring task right here, all these different task focus, you can have a maximum of 20 or however many you decide to add, since this is customizable. Just make sure you add enough of these rows as a buffer to allow for all of these to populate if you have one of everything. Otherwise, you'll get an error and this pivot table will clear. And that's because you don't have enough room on your spreadsheet to execute the entire thing. Now I'm going to select the very top left cell of that pivot table, hit copy. Let's say I'm going to go down to 24, for example, paste it. And now it's going to be the same exact thing. The only difference is instead of week start, I'm going to exit out of that. And instead I'm going to put completed, drag that under columns, uncheck the show totals. On the pivot table itself, I'm going to right click on one of the dates, create pivot date group, year and month. So this is going to be the same exact information up here. The only difference is instead of aggregating it based off of what the week start was when it was completed, it's going to look at the actual completed date and it's going to aggregate those based off of what month they were completed. But if I were to look at this, you can see we have 17 tasks that were complete. If I were to look at this, we also have 17 tasks that were complete. So it's the same thing, just formatting it and visualizing it in a different way. All right, I'm going to go ahead and copy both of these. And then we're going to go down a bit. Let's make sure we have enough room for the second pivot table to fully execute as well. And then we'll paste it. Now with this one, instead of having the task focus, we want to have the priority. So we'll drag priority under rows. and we'll uncheck this show totals. And we only have 7 different priorities, so we need to have a much smaller gap. So I'm going to select 63 through 70 in my case, delete those. So we have enough room, but there's not an excessive amount of room. Same thing here. Let's go ahead and click into this one right here. Uncheck task focus, add priority under rows, uncheck show totals, and now it's good as well. Let's go ahead and copy that. Add a little bit of a buffer to have enough room for all 7 priorities. We'll paste that. And this time we're going to get rid of priority and add type, uncheck show totals. And we have 5 different types of tasks. So we have planned, recurring, unplanned, follow-up, and unable to start. So we don't need that much, but we'll go ahead and just leave the blanks as it is. We'll click on the month, get rid of priority, add type, uncheck show totals. So now we're good for that one as well. Now we're going to do this one more time. So we're going to copy both of those pivot tables, go down a little bit and paste it. We'll click into the first one, uncheck type, and then we're going to add met deadline, uncheck show totals. And now this one's a little bit different because you can see that we have on time, we have overdue, but we also have a blank, and the blank does contain values. And that's because the deadline is optional. So we're going to do one more thing right here where it says met deadline. Under filters, we're going to drag that underneath. Make sure you don't accidentally clear out the completed. We'll click show all items, filter by condition, none is not empty. And now once I hit done, it's going to filter out any of the tasks where the met deadline is empty. So it only returns on time or overdue. So that's looking good. We'll click on the last one, remove type. We'll add met deadline under rows, uncheck show totals, add met deadline under filters. Once again, make sure you don't accidentally remove the completed portion. We'll click into the filter, filter by condition, none is not empty, and then hit OK. And now we're good to go. So at the end of the day, you should have 8 different pivot tables. The first one should be the week start, and this should be based off of the task focus. The second should be the completed date grouped by the month, and that should be the task focus as well. The third should be based off of the week start, and that should be based off of the priority. The fourth should be the completed date grouped by the month and also priority. The fifth should be week start based off of the type. The sixth should be completed date grouped by the month and task type as well. The seventh should be met deadline based off of the week start, and make sure that you don't have that blank in there. And the eighth should be met deadline based off of the completed date grouped by the month, and make sure you don't have that blank in there. So everything's good to go. All right, so now that we have all our different pivot tables, we're going to add some visualizations. So in the bottom left-hand corner, we'll click on the plus button. We'll rename this sheet as visualizations. And then we're going to click on insert chart. For chart type, we're going to click on stacked column chart. And then for the data range, we'll click on the 4 little boxes. We'll go to our visualizations worksheet and then click on A4, which is the name task focus. Go all the way down to A23 or whatever cell is just above the next pivot table. And then we want to go all the way through the end of these columns. So you can either drag it over or you can hold down Command, Shift, and press right until you get to the very end. So now you can see we have A4 through Z23. I'll hit OK, and it looks like this. We're going to click Switch Rows and Columns, use column A as headers, and use row 4 as labels. So now it looks like this. So we have all of the different tasks stacked on top of each other for each week start, and it has a color coding with a legend to show exactly how many of each task focus fell within that week. Now we're going to go to Customize, Chart and Axis Titles. For chart title, we're going to put Task Focus Completed, and then we're going to drop down Chart Subtitle and put By Week. Now I'm going to go ahead and drag this up, and then let's go ahead and put Horizontal Axis Title as well using this drop down. Horizontal Axis Title for the x-axis is going to be Week Completed, and then Vertical Axis Title, it will say Number Completed. So just like that, we have the name Task Focus Completed by week, we have number completed on the y-axis, and we have week completed on the x-axis. So that's exactly what we want. Now I'm going to make this a bit smaller, but you can kind of customize it however you want, whatever makes sense for your spreadsheet. And I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste this on the right side, make a little bit of a gap between, click on the 3 little ellipses to the right, go to Edit Chart, click the 4 little boxes, and delete that range that's currently there. Now we're going to go back to the visualizations worksheet. We're going to skip over the month for now, and then we're going to select priority all the way through 1 above the next pivot table, and make sure you're selecting the one for week start. And once again, we want to hit Command Shift right or Control Shift right to go all the way through column Z. So in my case, this is A51 through Z62. I'll hit OK. And now we have the same exact thing, but for priority. So it's no longer the task focus. So we can either double click on the title and we can edit it right there, or we can click on the three little dots, go to Edit Chart, go to Customize, Chart and Axis Title, and then we're going to say Priority Completed. We're going to do that again, so we'll copy, paste to the right, and if you drag it close enough, you'll see that these little lines appear once you have it synchronized in the same area. So that just helps things with alignment. Now we're going to click on the three little dots, go to Edit Chart, click the four little boxes, delete what's currently there, go to Visualizations Worksheet, skip the month just like we did last time, and now we're going to go back to the week start for the type. Click Type, go all the way down through one above the next chart, and then Command Shift Right all the way through column Z. So in my case, this is A78 through Z89, and I'll hit OK. Just like last time, now we have everything there, but we just need to update the name. So I'll change that to type. I'm going to copy that again. Let's paste it to the right, and this will be the last time we do that. Right click on the three little dots, go to Edit Chart, click on the four little boxes, delete what's currently there. Visualizations Worksheet, we're going to skip over the year month, and then for the Met Deadline by week, we're going to click on Met Deadline, go to one above the next pivot table, and then go through the end of column Z. So in my case, that's A102 through Z113. I'll hit OK, and now we have everything by week. All we need to do is update the title. So I'm going to say Met Deadline Completed. Cool, so everything is good to go there. Now, the only thing we need to do next is duplicate all of these, but for the month. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste. And I'm going to click on the three little dots, go to Edit Chart, click on the four boxes, delete what's currently there, go to Visualizations Worksheet, and then make sure we go based off of the year month completed instead of the week start. So we'll start with the second pivot table, click on Task Focus, go to one above the next pivot table, Command Shift Right, and keep doing that until you hit column Z. And in my case, this is A25 through Z49. I'll hit OK. So now everything looks nice, but we need to make a little bit of a tweak, and that's because it's no longer by week. So we need to change that to by month. And we can either double click on the title or go to Customize Chart Subtitle and change it to by month. And then same thing with the X-axis. We can either select the horizontal axis title to update it there, or simply double click on the title. And this one's going to say month completed. So now everything's good to go there. Now we're going to do the same exact thing that we just did. The only difference is instead of selecting the weeks, we're going to select the months. So I'm going to click on the month, paste it to the right, use the little grid lines to make sure it's aligned properly. Click the three dots, click Edit Chart, click the four little boxes, delete what's there, go to Visualizations Worksheet, skip over this week start, and then for the priority by month, we'll click on Priority, go to one above the next pivot table, hit Command Shift Right, and keep doing that until you reach column Z. Hit OK, and then double click on the name, change that to Priority, and then we'll copy this chart, paste it to the right, align it, click the three little dots, Edit Chart, click the four little boxes, delete that, go to our Visualizations Worksheet, skip over the week start, and then for the month for the task type, we're going to click on Type, go through one above the next pivot table, Command Shift Right or Control Shift Right, hit OK, and everything's looking good. We just need to update the title. So we're going to change this to Type, and then we're going to copy this, paste it, click the three little dots, click Edit Chart, click the four little boxes, delete the range that's there, go to Visualizations Worksheet, skip over the week start, and then click on Met Deadline. And in this case, you don't need to go too far down because this is all that will ever be there. So I'll go down to Overdue. I'll select all columns to the right, going through column Z, hit OK, and then double click on the title, change that to Met Deadline, and press Enter. So now everything's looking good. Next thing we're going to do is click on the cell to the left of A and above 1 to select the entire range. And let's give it a little bit of a background. So we're going to say fill color is equal to, let's say, this blue color. And then we're going to go to View, Show, Grid Lines. And now the grid lines are gone, so it looks a little bit nicer. Let's make O a little bit smaller, delete anything over here to the right. And then let's make 36 through the end of the rows. Let's delete those as well. So that way we only have whatever we have here. And you can always click and you can drag these to however you want them to fit. It's entirely up to you. You can customize it as you see fit. And if you change things and you need to make them a little bit smaller on the right side, you can do that as well. So everything's good now. Now, if you don't like this color scheme, no problem. This goes back to the whole format themes I was talking about earlier. So format, themes. So let's say that instead of that, you want to have this little one right here. You can click on that. I like to do this little vintage. That's always a fun one for me. And then if you don't like something, so let's say it's kind of hard to read this by week, you can go to Customize. And then for the font color, instead of text being whatever color that is, you can always change it to black. And that will help make it a little bit more contrast. Chart background, you can always change this as well. So instead of it being whatever it is, you can change it to this light gray or whatever color you want. Main accent, you can change that to whatever color you want as well. But you get the gist. You can customize these colors to be whatever color you want. And you can also adjust the text to be whatever text you want. And once you hit done, you'll see done, and then it'll be this custom theme. So everything's looking good right there. So essentially we're all done. Now, one thing to note is that if you see something is missing, that should be there. If it's out of range, it's not going to be there. But every once in a while, you'll run into something where you need to add series. And if something is missing, you can always add it manually right there. I configured it in a way that you shouldn't run into this issue, but just in case you do, all you need to do is double check that it's present on the pivot table. If it is present on the pivot table, go over here to visualizations, click the three little dots, edit chart, and then add series and make sure that it's there. All right, so we're gonna click on visualizations worksheet and click hide sheet, since that's mainly a kind of flow through. Combine list, let's go ahead and hide that sheet as well, since that's a flow through. To add, we need to keep. Recurring, we need to keep. Done, we need to keep. Task list, we need to keep. Dashboard, we need to keep. And visualizations, we need to keep. Perfect, so we are done. Now let's test it out to make sure everything is working just as we planned. So let's go ahead and add some recurring tasks. So if there's not anything here that's automatically saying to add, go ahead and change the date back one or wherever you need to do to make some to add. Let's go over to this to add column and copy what's there. Go to the task list, click on the next available row in column A, and right click, paste specials, values only. Alternatively, you can hit Command Shift V or Control Shift V. And if you did it right, you shouldn't have a formula right here, and you shouldn't have any formulas here. Let's go ahead and put some of these as done. Perfect. And over here to the right, you should see a timestamp if it says done. It looks like we did not extend this all the way down. So we'll simply click on the formula in row 4 and then drag that fill handle down through the end of the columns. Cool, so now it looks like I'm all good to go. So if it says done, you should see a timestamp with today's date right there. And for your completed counter, you should also see however many tasks you've completed this week right here, as well as if there's any on your done tab, that should also be reflected. In this case, I don't have anything this week, so that's why there's nothing there. On your dashboard, you should see only the items that you have still listed. You shouldn't see any of your completed tasks. But on your completed tasks, you still should see everything right here, even if it's done on your to-do list. And then you should also be seeing anything that's on your done tab, along with the deadline. The counter right here should say you have blank task or tasks pending, and that number should match right here. And this number should match anything that's still pending, which we have 1, we have 2. So everything's looking good. Now at the end of the day, let's go ahead and sort this. So I'll click on this little caret, go to sort column Z to A. And now all your done tabs are going to be at the very end. We'll simply select all of those options and we're going to copy. We'll click done and we're going to right click, paste special, values only, or use the hotkeys. And you should see whether it's overdue or on time and the week start date. And I realized that the reason why these were not configured, but things down below were, was because I selected the entire columns and pressed delete. And if I do that, it will delete the formulas as well. If you do that, not a big deal. You can simply drag the formulas back down. But a better way to do it, you can simply delete the entire rows altogether. And then all the formulas will be shifted up and everything will be good to go. On your recurring tab, don't forget whenever you add it to double click and put whatever today's date is. So I'll put the 12th, and everything should be no and should not be highlighted at this point. And that will ensure that whenever it needs to be added, it will be added again. Otherwise, it will flag it to be added again tomorrow. On your visualizations tab, you should see the task focus broken up by week as well as month, the priority broken up by week as well as month, the task type broken up by week as well as month, met deadline broken up by week as well as month. As you go through your workday, if you're on a call and they say update spreadsheet, you can say update spreadsheet, for example, or whatever you need to do. And I always just take my notes whenever I'm on a call and getting the instructions. If you need to add more notes, you can add them right over here under notes, whatever this is. So we'll say reporting, double click for deadline, and we'll say that we have a deadline of the 19th. If you have a link, you can link it right here. And then anything that you did not know about at the beginning of the week is unplanned. Anything that you did know about at the beginning of the week is planned. So I always start it with unplanned, and then I will mark it as not started, and then assign a priority. So let's say this one is a high priority. And then once again, once you add that, you'll see it prioritized over here on the task list. So it's prioritized second. And then you'll also see it in the snapshot calendar right over here. And if you want to reorganize these by top to bottom, you can always click on the caret, then go to sort column A to Z, and then it'll be sorted for you right there. And you can do the same thing for the deadline as well. When you start working on it, you'll click on pending, and then that way you just know that you're working on it. And then when you click on done, that's your indication that it's done. Now let's say that I did not finish it before the end of the week. Anything that was unplanned is now going to be changed to planned because we now know about it going into the next week. And then you'll simply double click on the start date and select the Monday of the next week. And that's all you need to do to update week over week. Again, biggest things that you need to make sure you're doing is after you add the recurring task, make sure you're double clicking and updating the date to today. And each day before you head out, sort it based off of the column Z to A, and then anything that is currently there that's done, go to your Done tab, go to the very end, Paste Specials Only, and then you can simply delete that row right there. And that's all you have to do. The spreadsheet was going to do the rest. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. As always, let me know if you have any questions and like and comment for more.